So in this video we will implement the login for seller. Till now we have completed the registration. Also we have implemented the logout button on our home screen. So now let's just allow the seller to log in. So for that we need to simply go to the login.dot file, and in here, as I told you guys, I hope you remember that if you see this gray color line, you have to simply add this const modifier alongside with it. Okay, anyways, so the button where we have this login button, okay, so whenever the seller click on it, what we want to do, we can remove this and now we can implement it. First of all, we will do the form validation for our login screen. Okay, so we will call a function which we will implement now. Let's give that function name as form validation, and here we have to validate only two things, the email and password. Okay, so we call this function here, and now let's just implement it. Okay, copy this form validation name, and above here, above the widget build, we can say form validation. So we have to check that if the email controller dot text dot is not empty. If this is not empty, and the second condition is the password. If the password controller dot text dot is not empty. So if both of these are not empty, then we are going to log in, otherwise else. We are going to show dialog, the error dialog. Context comma builder, okay, and then you can say return the error dialog. We have to pass a message to it, and the message will be inside the double quotes, please write email password, okay, to log in. So anyways, make sure to put a semicolon here at the end. And now let's just implement the function in order to allow the seller to log in successfully. So we can say login now. This is the function name, and it will be asynchronous. First of all, we will display the loading dialog. I hope you remember that with the progress bar, which is, so just copy this show dialog and paste it here, and instead of error dialog we can say loading dialog. Okay, and you can say that checking credentials. We are passing this message which is checking credentials, and then after it we are saying that please wait, comma, please wait. So anyways, after this we have to create an instance of our Firebase user. Okay, so for that, after the show dialog, you can simply write here user, which belongs to the Firebase out.dot package. Okay, we can give it name as current user, just like we did on the registration for registering the account. Okay, so anyways, now we can say wait Firebase auth dot sign in with email and password. This one, okay, sign in with email and password. It required two parameters, email and password. First pass the first one, which is email, and which is inside the email controller dot text dot trim. Then the next one we have is the password, so you can say password controller dot text dot trim. And then comes, that is, once the seller is signed in with email and password successfully, as you remember, this thing basically return us current user. Okay, so we have to get that user, okay, and assign it to our current user type variable. So we can say simply here that dot then, okay, change this to auth, and first we have to get the user, so we can say auth dot user and assign that user who is going to log in. Okay, we have to assign it, make sure to add the null check here. We have to assign that to our current user variable. After this, if any error occur, okay, so we can simply use the dot catch error. So we can say dot catch error. If any error occur, we can get that error and we can say that, we can simply display that. Also we have to disappear the, make the loading bar disappear, so we can say navigator dot pop context and then display the error message, of course. So for that, instead of writing it, we have already used it, so I will simply copy this code, okay, this show dialog, and then here inside the catch error we can simply paste it, and we can say that error dot message dot to string. So anyways, if everything goes well, okay, then we are getting the user, okay, as a result, and we assign that current we assign that user to the current user, and using this current user, this is basically the seller who is going to log in. Okay, so we can check, that is, if this is not null, then send him or her to the seller's home. So anyways, after the catch error here, we can say that if current user not equals to null, okay, that is, if he is authenticated successfully with the Firebase authentication, then what we need to do, we need to send the seller to the home screen. But one more thing is, we have to read the data from the database first and then save that data locally to the to our phone using the shared preferences. As you know, we are using the local data, the shared preferences as well. So for that purpose, after the function, above the widget build, let's create another function. We will simply say here, that is, read data and set data locally. Now basically we are reading the data from the Firestore database, okay, and once we read it, retrieve it. By read I simply means retrieve, okay. Once we retrieve it, then we will set the data locally using the shared preferences, and we will send the seller to the home screen, okay. And we are doing this because we will need data most of the time, that is most important data, which we already shared using the share preferences on the registration screen, okay. But let's say if the seller log out, then of course the seller will log in from the login page, so we have to do that step here also. So anyways, the account is already created for the seller, as you know, only then the seller can log in. So we can simply say that user current user, and it is important because then later on we will, there is no need to retrieve the data again and again from the Firestore database, okay. We will simply receive it from the locally from the phone storage, okay, using the shared preferences, just like we retrieve the name on the home screen when we were registering the seller, I hope you remember that in the previous video. So anyways, let's just continue, and we can save it. Firebase firestore dot instance dot collection. The collection is our sellers collection dot doc, and the doc is for that specific user who is going to log in. Okay, so we can say current user dot uid dot get. Let me just break this in pieces so that we can see the code easily. Dot then make sure to put a semicolon at the end, and then in here change the value for this to snapshot. So from the sellers collection we are retrieving the information for this specific seller. That is, let's say this specific seller, currently we have 3 sellers. Okay, so let's say this specific seller is trying to log in. Okay, so using their UID, okay, I mean this one QJIZ, here you can see. So we are basically referencing to this sellers collection, this document. Okay, so we have now access to all the information to, I mean, receive it, to read it, retrieve it, and then save it locally, of course, using the shared preferences. So of course, I mean, it is easy. So as we have the data now, we can simply say make this async. Okay, then now we can say wait shared preferences dot set string. The key value will be the, for storing the UID, let's just show, I mean, let me show it to you guys. We are saving the data using the key UID. Okay, the same we will do here. We are saving the data on the login screen by the key name UID. Okay, just like this, while for, I mean, the value is stored inside the current user dot UID, which we can get from here. Make sure to put a semicolon here and also add the null check here. Okay, so now let's just copy paste this for the time saving for the remaining other ones. Okay, the next key is for storing the email. We have key email, then we have name, and then we have the photo URL. So the email we can get from the email controller. So we can say email controller dot text trim. Then the name we can get name controller. Okay, here we are basically receiving it from the database. So in order to do that, I mean, we can get it from the using this snapshot. Okay, using this snapshot we have access to this specific seller information, as I told you. Okay, for this specific document, I mean, we can access each and every information from here. So the name we are saving by the keyword seller name. So in order to access it, we can simply say here that snapshot dot data, add the null check here, and then inside these brackets, okay, we can say inside the double quotes just write seller name. Okay, so we are receiving it from the Firestore database using the snapshot for this specific seller, okay, who is trying to log in. So yeah, this is the seller name. Let's also retrieve from the Firestore database, okay, instead using the email controller. So the email is served by the name seller email. Okay, and then comes of course the photo URL. So let's just retrieve also this one. The photo URL is by the name seller avatar URL. Okay, so we can say seller avatar URL. So yeah, this is so simple and so easy. So now whenever we required this data, which is the UID, email name and photo URL for this specific seller, okay, after successful login we can access this data easily from the local storage, okay, instead of retrieving it from the Firestore again and again whenever we required it in the app. Okay, we just retrieve it once, we save it to the local storage, and then after the successful login, of course, we can use it as many times we want, okay, for that specific seller, unless until the seller click on the logout button and come out of the app. Okay, so when the seller click on login button, we are calling the function which is form validation, okay, this one, and here we are checking if everything goes well, then we are login, otherwise display the error dialog which is to please write email and password. So if everything goes well, we are going to call our function which is login now. Okay, so in the login now, what we did here, we basically display the loading dialog with progress, checking credentials please wait, and then we using the Firebase auth current user, we are basically signing the seller with email and password. Okay, so if everything goes well, as you know, Firebase authentication basically return us that current seller, okay, who is trying to log in. Okay, so we get that seller and we assign it to the current user. Okay, so if any error occur during the authentication, okay, during the sign in with Firebase authentication, then we simply display this error. Okay, whatever that error message is, it will display here in the error dialog. Okay, and then if everything goes well, we have already assigned the current user to it, and then we say that if current user not equals to null, then just send the first retrieve the data from the Firestore for that specific seller and then save the data locally. Okay, so let's just call this function which is to save the data locally. So we can say read data and set data locally, which is our function, and we are of course passing the current user to it. Make sure to add the null check here. Okay, and then we can say dot then when this function is called, okay, and everything executed, then after it we want to do something which is to send the seller to the page which is our home page, home screen for seller. Okay, so we can say material page root builder context and right here the home screen. This is it. Make sure to write here the const modifier or const keyword. Okay, so yeah, that's it. One more thing is, if everything completed successfully, we have to do one more thing, which is to disappear the progress bar, the loading dialog. So for that we can say navigator dot pop context. So now close the debugging, okay, and then run the app again, install the app from the start. So the app is running now, and now let's just check the login. So first of all, let's log in any seller account, pizza@gmail.com. Then of course, now I'm going to write incorrect password. Okay, so let's check if the error comes or not. Here you can see it. Okay, the error dialog, the password is invalid or the user does not have a password. Okay, so it show you this. You have to write the correct password. Now if I write the correct password, okay, and I remove this underscore from it, @ sorry, and I click on login, then it will say email is badly formatted. Now if I write any email that even do not exist, Okay, I mean the seller who has not, I mean not till now he has no account in the, he or she has no account in our app. Okay, for example, let's say testing is a cafe, testing drinks cafe, cold drinks cafe. Okay, any cafe, I mean, let's say, which is not even registered yet. So if I click on login, then it will say there is no user record corresponding to this identifier. The user may have been deleted. Okay, so it says that the record do not exist. Maybe if he exists in the past, okay, maybe their record is deleted, but currently we have no record related to this email address, I mean this cafe or this restaurant or this shop owner, I mean whatever the seller is. Okay, so yeah, now let's go with the correct one, which is already registered in our app. Okay, currently we have 3 sellers. Okay, of course you can add I mean millions sellers in the app. Okay, depend upon on your whatever you like. So Pizza Hut @gmail.com. so here you can see Pizza Hut. This is the logout button, and if I log out, let me check. The next one is the Italian. Let's log in using this account now, which is the Italian pizza. Okay, the email is italian@gmail.com. Okay, let's click on login, checking credential, please wait. So yeah, it is working fine. That is really nice and really incredible. So the remaining course videos you can find on our Udemy. Okay, you can join our complete course on our Udemy, where you will have the sellers complete app video lectures, the riders complete app video lectures, the users complete app video lectures, alongside with the, I mean plus the web admin portal. Okay, for our this food selling and food ordering app, I mean the FoodPanda clone app, or you can say the Swiggy, Zomato or Uber Eats clone app. So yeah, the complete course you can find on our Udemy. I will provide the link in the description, so please join using that link. If you join the course using that link, then you will get 91% discount. So in order to get 91% discount, okay, please join using that link. So yeah, and see you guys in the complete course on our Udemy. Bye for now.